The brand new BlackBerry KEYone is an important phone for BlackBerry, mostly because it's the first BlackBerry not actually produced by BlackBerry themselves. Instead, they've outsourced that to the Chinese manufacturer TCL, who also make the budget Alcatel phones. Now, the key reason that you'd pick up a BlackBerry classically was because of the keyboard, and that's still the key reason why you'd pick up the KEYone. The keyboard on the KEYone is reasonable. It's a little bit slicker than I recall the classic BlackBerry keyboards being, and there's a slight degree less tactile motion to it. But if you like having a physical keyboard, if you like having something that you can tap and touch and gives you feedback, then it's all present and correct, and in some ways improved. And that's because TCL's built a few other gestures into it. So for example, if you slide your finger across the entire keyboard, it acts as a scroll cursor, so you can move in between apps or in between app screens, depending on what's supported. Each key can be set to be a specific shortcut to an app or function, which could make this a highly productive device, and BlackBerries have always really been about information and productivity. The spacebar also acts as a fingerprint sensor for unlocking, which is quite neat and works quite well. The other big standout feature for the KEYone is its battery life. This thing has quite impressive battery life. It's quite easy to get a full day's battery life out of it, and that's largely due to a high capacity battery and the inclusion of the Qualcomm Snapdragon 625 processor. Now, that is a mid-range processor, and moreover, it's last year's mid-range processor, so this isn't a high performance device, even though it's effectively the BlackBerry flagship right now. Still, we managed to get quite a good Geekbench battery test time out of it. It didn't complete the test, so we don't have a battery test score, however. But it's still up there, and certainly anecdotal testing says, yes, this is a decent battery phone. So what's not to like? Well, obviously, if you don't want a keyboard on your phone, then this isn't the phone for you. But even if you do, the presence of the keyboard and the way that Android apps work with that keyboard is a little bit inconsistent. In some cases, the app will respect that there's a physical keyboard present and not display an on-screen keyboard. In others, it won't. And sometimes you can minimize that keyboard, sometimes you can't. Sometimes you just end up losing a bunch of screen space, and you're only talking a 4.5-inch display to start with. The camera also, probably the best camera that BlackBerry has had in a phone, but in that premium space, is it a contender? No, it's not. It's a good camera, but not a great camera by any stretch of the imagination. So who is the BlackBerry One best suited for? Well, if you're a die-hard BlackBerry fanatic, then rejoice, because it is the best BlackBerry phone in some years that also incorporates Android and of course BlackBerry's enterprise-grade security features. That being said, if you're on the fence about it, if you're just thinking, well, maybe I could jump back to BlackBerry, then it's a bit of a tougher sell. Here in Australia, it'll retail at $8.99 outright, and there are no announced telco partners to grab it on a contract. That's a kind of painful price point because there's an awful lot of phones that you could pick up either outright or on contract that compete much better. You could go for the similarly priced but significantly more powerful Huawei P10. If you wanted something with that enterprise-grade security, Samsung's Galaxy S8 features their Knox security inbuilt. Ultimately, this is a phone for someone who wants a keyboard on their phone. That is the key reason that you'd buy it. It's decent within that market, but essentially, it's your only choice.